Hey, what's up? I'm Gazbot, and this is 100 Days of Making Comics Day 78, where I spend at least 30 minutes a day working on my own project. In my case, it's the independent, creator-owned kaiju comic, The Horror A4, Issue 1 already available, link down below, Issue 2 being worked on currently for at least 30 minutes a day. Regardless what else is happening for 100 days in a row. So as I said, this is Day 78, and today, in addition to filling you in on what's going on in my day and showing you some art project things that are happening and client work, etc., I am going to talk a bit about idea debt. Presto Zamo, it's nighttime. Look at that, it was the morning and now it's night. Well, that's because I did everything else and then remembered, oh yeah, I was gonna talk about idea debt or art debt. Idea debt, right? Idea debt. Okay, so, this is a concept that I've thought about before. Other people have discussed, and I've talked about it at length. But the wording, the nomenclature, the icon of words, the summation, the label that is idea debt is what I'm going to focus on. Some people were talking about in a Facebook art group I'm in. Natural Talent was the group, and there was a discussion of somebody talking about how, I have all these ideas and I have a million projects and various things and I want to do this and this and I want to be a model and a race car driver and an artist, and even as an artist I got 15 drawings done. Many creatives go through this. I've gone through this. I continue to go through this. I feel I've gotten better, but I am definitely, I remember when I was in middle school, between middle school and high school, my grandparents at some point said something to me because my friend Matt had been drawing and I was drawing and he drew RoboCop better than me, and I said, man, yeah, he did a much better job, this and that, and they're like, oh yeah, well, I'm like, yeah, but I guess he just likes to draw and I like to draw, but I also like, photography and videos and writing and blah blah blah, and like acting or whatever I was saying. And they're like, oh, so you're like a jack of all trades, which I don't know if I'd heard that term before, but either I hadn't or it was one of the first times, and I liked it. I said, I am a jack of all trades. And then they said, master of none. And I'm like, master? Wait, what? And, there was, the discussion wasn't very deep. They kind of moved right on, but in my head, I'm like, oh, jack of all trades sounds awesome. Like, I'm good at everything. I dabble in lots of things. I'm a Renaissance man. But the master of none part is like, well, that's why he's a better artist than me, because he draws more than I do, because he focuses more energy on his drawing, whereas I'm splitting my energy between many different things. Now, this should have been an epiphany and a revelation. Well, it was, but it didn't set my world on fire. I just sort of felt bad and then forgot about it, because I was, again, somewhere between 12 and 18 at this time. I don't remember my exact age. Definitely younger than 18. But I didn't correct my behavior. I didn't focus in. Now, correct is a inflammatory way of saying it, because there's nothing wrong with being a jack of all trades, master of none. There's nothing wrong with being someone that tries many things. There's nothing wrong with never settling down. But I wanted to excel at something. I wanted to be known for something. I wanted to get something out there, And over the years, I took photography classes. I took legal classes. I thought I was going to be a paralegal or a lawyer for a while, and I showed aptitude for it, but then I was like, what am I doing? Isn't that weird when you think about that now? Like, and I never really was going to, I guess, but I took like Intro to Criminal Justice and Paralegal Accounting and like all the basic first year classes that you would need to be a paralegal. And then I'm like, well, I'll become a paralegal and then maybe move on from there. But whatever, I'm getting sidetracked. But that's my point. I took improv classes, and I was an improv performer for a while, and I made a horror movie, with my friends when I worked at Six Flags, and, there's just a million things I want to do still, and I've sort of focused in a lot. I'm like, well, I'm going to really just try to focus on art. Now, I do these videos, but that's in service. All the stuff I do now tries to be in service of my art, my visual art. And going back to the other thing, music. I've been in several bands. Not like Kevin Cross, but I've been in a bunch of bands. We've played out, recorded a few CDs. Nobody really cared. And it was always just fun, but it would always be like, it would start to take over where it was becoming more and more popular. Not popular. Time-consuming. Popular was the wrong word. Time-consuming. Prevalent is the word I was looking for. In my hourly, expenditures, my hourly expenditures for the day, my creative expenditures, my energy expenditures, everything's exciting at first. Oh man, we're in a new band, I wrote a new song, that's great, this is fun, but then meanwhile I'm like, oh, I gotta do more work on my anatomy, it's less glamorous, but that's really what I should be focusing on. And so as I've gotten older and closer to death, and I feel my time on this world getting shorter and shorter, that has helped me to focus in on my goals more, but I still have trouble, because I'm working on my comic, but I'm also doing print, and, in the back of my head I still have some video projects I want to do that are different than the ones I've shown you, and I have another story idea I want to do, and oh, I have a series of prints that are kind of artistic, and all these things, and it's good to have these ideas, but if I let myself think about them too much, I won't continue working on the horror issue too, because it's a drudge, it's a slog, it takes forever. Part of why it takes forever is because I'm doing other things, but even if I focus on it 100%, it's just not as glamorous. Creating a new character is exciting. Getting an idea for new songs, exciting. Working on that same rough, on that same page for that same story I've been working on for a year and a half is not exciting. But the satisfaction I'll feel from getting it done is way more than the small satisfaction I get from starting a new project, which is no satisfaction. It's excitement. It's the same problem when people, and again, myself, I'll tell people about ideas. Oh man, I have this idea for this book or this movie or this whatever. And I'll tell a bunch of people and they're like, that's a great idea. And I'll get those endorphins and I'll feel like, yeah. And I'll never do it. Why? Because I got my, reward. But anyway, this is all ground I've covered. It's funny that it kind of coalesced into a few things here. Participating in that thread on the group, somebody linked an article from Jessica Abel, who is a writer, comic artist, someone I know mainly from the mid to late 90s in the alt comic scene, and I think she worked on Space Ghost Coast to Coast, and she is or was married to Evan Dorkin, and she was just part of the royalty of the alternative comic scene for the mid to late 90s, which is really specific. But at that time, in my world, she was, a big deal. I'm not saying she's not now, but I saw that name, I'm like, oh man, Jessica Abel, that means something, And there's, she's a blogger, and she's got all this other stuff, but I basically just read this one thing, which was idea debt. And she was saying very much what I'm saying, where she had this idea before, and a friend of hers coined this term, idea debt, which is something I'm acutely familiar with. I'm better at handling it than some people, worse than others, but the idea is all these ideas you have for books and stories and prints and paintings and whatever that you've been hanging on to forever. Here's a perfect example for me. I have an animation that I was going to do in SVA School of Visual Arts. That's where I got my degree, in animation. And it was going to be my senior project. And the thing was, my senior year, I only was taking 2 classes because this whole thing worked out weird. And so basically I only had 2 classes, and I was doing an internship, and I didn't have a full-time job, so I had a lot of time. So I got this really ambitious project. It was going to be 3 to 5 minutes long, full animation. And my teacher was like, you're not going to have time to do this. But when I explained that I don't have a full-time job and I'm only taking 2 classes, they're like, oh, well, you know what, maybe you can do this. Things got things got whacked around. What am I even saying? Things changed. They got mixed up and whacked around. No, things changed. And I got an internship that became a job. So suddenly I went from having all the time in the world to having a full-time animation job and going to school part-time. So now, instead of having a wide open schedule, I had a really tight schedule. So I had to scrap that project and do a quick little one that I did, and I didn't like it, but it was enough to let me graduate. But the project I'd done the storyboards for, I had recorded voices, I had actors come in, and I, had the whole thing, the script and everything, and I always liked it. I had that whole binder. It's a literal binder, although this could also be a figurative binder, of character designs, the script, the storyboards, and I've always thought, oh, I'll go back to that one day. Oh, maybe I'll make that into a comic. Maybe I'll make it into a TV show. I'll do something with it. And it's, at this point, I probably won't, but for years, I thought I would go back to it. And we're talking, it's been 10 years now. So even if I was out of ideas, which seems crazy because I'm always coming up with ideas. So it's why go back? But even if I was out of ideas, I said, I'm going to go back to that idea. I think the worst thing I could do would be to take that old script and those old storyboards and try to rework it and make it good now. I think it would make more sense to just start a new project with maybe that in mind. Oh, well, that was a good idea, and let me see what I come up with if I do it now. Because it will inherently be better, because I'm a better artist, I'm a better writer, I've had more life experience. Even if I do the exact same thing, it will be better because of I'm a better, creator at this point. And so part of the idea of idea debt is that it becomes paralyzing because you have 50 million projects that you've been dragging along with you for years that you feel you owe something to, that if you just let it go, oh my gosh, all that wasted work. But it can be more stressful to hang on to it. And it's more liberating to just let it go. Just forget about all that stuff you haven't done. And then when you're done, finish your current project. And then when you're done, time for a new project, do one. And if you decide, oh, I had that idea from way back when, and it happens to be the thing you want to do, great. But then it's not, you're not beholden to it. You're not indebted to it. And it's just more liberating. And her friend gave the analogy, which I'm now this is a third-hand story, but how they were a snowboarder and they would go on these jumps and stuff. And a lot of times they'd go and they'd see people on the top of the hill, usually younger people who theoretically, seemingly were waiting online, waiting their turn to make the jump. But they realized, oh, well, I would go and do every jump, and I'd see them, and I first thought they were waiting, but then I realized they were like waiting to get up their nerve or trying to decide if they want to jump or not jump. And the whole time they don't realize it, but they're getting colder and they're building it up more. And this is obviously, it could be an analogy for art or any creative endeavor. If you're thinking about doing a comic, if you do it, then you might fail, you might not, it might be terrible, it might be great, whatever, but you do it and it's done and you've done it. If you sit there thinking about it forever, now there's more pressure, you're not sure if you're going to do it, oh, you've been telling people about it, now it's been a month, oh, you do all these notes, you do all these characters, nice, now it's been 2 months, okay, it's going to be coming out, you've been talking, now it's in a year. That's like waiting on top of that ski slope for an hour. Now, if you just went up there and tried it and fell, oh well, you tried, you fell, no big deal. Or if you went, you know what, I'm not going to do this, I'm going to go do a different one, no big deal. But if you've been standing there for an hour, especially if you're telling people, look, I'm going to make this jump, they're all watching you. Not only should you do it, but because you've waited a year, it better be amazing. For them, for yourself, there's so much pressure, and now you're tired because you've been sitting up there on the top of the hill being cold and everything, and now you got to do something, and not just do it, but do it great. And if you decide to walk away then you look foolish. And it's the same thing with any creative project, which is another reason why you don't necessarily want to blab about doing it till you're actually doing it, because you lose the energy and you get that feedback that makes you feel good, but also then it's harder for you to change your mind. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't tell people you're doing a project, because there is something that's good about accountability. 100 Days of Making Comics, hello. But I didn't run around telling people about my comic, The Horror A4, until I was doing this. I was doing the work, getting it ready. I mean, my wife knew, obviously, but it wasn't until I was really doing it and I put myself up here to be accountable that I started talking about it. So the longer you wait to do something, the harder it's going to be, the less likely it's going to live up to your expectations, you know. So try to just do it or don't is kind of the point, and forget about all that old stuff. And coincidentally, I was just watching videos on writing and things because, you know, I've been writing, but I'm not a writer. I've taken a few writing classes, but that's the part that's newer to me than the art side. So every now and then I'll watch some things. I can't bring myself to bring a book, read a book on writing or take a class again. But, you know, watching writers kind of give pointers, and there's all the usual stuff. But be true to character and have change and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But I was watching the thing, Stephen King was giving a talk, and funny enough, he started talking about, somebody asked him if he keeps a notebook, and he's like, you know, for ideas, and he's like, not really. He's like, you know, I might take notes, but no, I don't worry about that. And this is something I've said, not as succinctly as he did, and not as, you know, with the professional weight he had, but a similar concept. And he was saying, like, I don't keep a notebook because if I have an idea and it's good or great, I'll have it again, or it'll stick around. If I have 10 ideas and I forget 9 of them, they probably weren't that good, or they probably weren't amazing, or they probably don't need to be remembered. So why write them down like I'm writing down bad ideas, or not great ideas at the very least. And if you're a creative person, I mean, we just talked about, part of the thing about it being a creative person is you have a million ideas all the time. Do you really need to write them down? Or are you really going to get to the point where you're like, I'm out of ideas? Now, I am guilty of writing a few ideas down here and there, but just a quick note, usually for a print idea or something coming down the line in the story I'm working on, and maybe I should even do that. But they go hand in hand in my mind, because on the one hand, you don't necessarily need to write down every idea you have, because the good ones will stick around. And they might even, when you think of them later, will refine themselves subconsciously and be better. So you don't need to necessarily write everything down, because the good ones will stick around. And you don't need to hold on to all those old projects from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 3 months ago, whenever, because you're better now, you can let that go, you have plenty of ideas, and if anything was good in there, it'll stick. So they go hand in hand to me, because you get rid of all the old stuff, you don't bother writing down the new stuff, and anything that's good is gonna come back again. And you know, maybe you had this whole like story, movie idea, and most of it's garbage, but there was like one really cool character or this cool scene. You're working on a new project. If it was good enough, you'll remember that scene, or you'll want to reuse that character, and so you plop it in the new one. And now, instead of trying to take an old thing and make it good, you're taking a new good thing and making it better by mining old ideas that you happen to remember. And again, the ones you don't remember probably weren't worth remembering. So, you know, this is kind of a big, long explanation. My whole point was that, like, oh, it's summed up with idea debt. And then I expounded upon it forever. But, and again, this is not me pointing the finger at anybody. I'm pointing it at you, but I'm pointing it at myself, because I'm looking at the camera. So it's, there, is that better? It's something we all struggle with, or most of us struggle with, that are creatives. And I have gotten better over time. I still struggle with it. And I think I'm still bad about having a million projects ahead of me, but I've gotten much better at going projects behind me. And I think that's healthy, and I think it's an easier, more stress-free way to work. And, you know, I have ideas that if the horror, it's a 5-issue limited series with a definitive ending. And originally that's all it was, but I've allowed myself to think, well, you know, if it's popular or if I'm excited about it, I do have ideas where it could go past this. Even though, again, kind of like Star Wars, the first Star Wars movie ends. And if you never did another one, that'd be fine. And that's kind of how I talk about the horror. But if I wanted to, I could do an Empire and Jedi of the horror. But if I get to the end of the horror, do another project, whatever, I'm not gonna feel bad if I don't. I'm not gonna go, oh man, well I had the ideas for those other books, and you know, 10 years from now, like I gotta do another storyline for the horror. Like, no, hopefully I'm not gonna stress out about that the way I'm not stressing out about the animation project that I want to do something with from school or various other plethora of things. And I'm trying to limit my idea debt, or at least limit my feeling of being beholden to it. So that's my thing that I've been dealing with and thinking about today, not for the first time, but in a more sharp, focused sort of way. Hopefully this helps you too. I'll put a link below to the Stephen King video I watched. I'll put a link below to the Jessica Abel article. There was some other thing that went through my line of sight today that reinforced this as well, but I'm forgetting it, so if I think of it, I'll put in the link. But meanwhile, let's go from here onto my actual work day and see what I'm up to. Not idea debt, I know that. It is really nice out. It's just about a perfect day. It's 71. I have shorts and a t-shirt, but I'm not cold. I could be wearing a hoodie and I wouldn't be sweating. There's a light breeze. The sun's a little brighter than I'd like. A few clouds wouldn't be bad, but yeah, it's a good, cool day. I'm looking forward to fall. So I spent a lot of my day today working on convention stuff. I am going to be doing a convention, not this weekend, but the next weekend, the first weekend in October. It's going to be the San Jose Toy Show, which I did a couple months back to limited success. I split a table with my buddy. I technically made money, but not a lot. And what I had said at the time, which I'm going to reprise now, was that it was worth doing because I'm a toy collector. And I've been to that show before and paid my $15 to get in, or, you know, whatever. So, likely, if I wasn't exhibiting, I'd probably go anyway. So I'm saving that money, I'm getting in early, I'm getting to do my toy shopping, while at the same time getting my comic, my art out there, making a few bucks. And I'm splitting with my buddies, so it's, you know, a little bit social in that way too, because we could hang out. It's a 2-day show, so it's a little bit more than it was last time, but not double. So I'm hoping financially we'll do better. I'm hoping we get a better table placement, because last time we were kind of in a bad spot at the very end of everything. I have no control over that. But I was on a wait list, just got, you know, green lit, so that's all going. And then I spent some time double checking on wait lists I was on for other cons, including Emerald City and a few bigger ones that I've thought about doing and never been able to get into. And looking up some more local ones. I have, I think, 3 shows left this year, and I wouldn't mind doing 1 or 2 more, especially because hopefully I'll have my cutout, my standee, soon, and then I'm only going to use it for a handful of shows this year. So if I could do a few more, that'd be good. I did a lot of that today. Then I also worked on the Power Rangers commission, which I have done on the computer, ready to print out and transfer. And here it is. I got all 6 Rangers, and there's going to be an explosion, so I flattened it, turned it black and white. I'm about to print it, and then I'll probably set that up, get ready to go, and then start cooking dinner. Well, I'm all done. Isn't it great? Going for more of a minimalist, abstract contour sort of thing. No, that's not true. I just sort of started working on the outline, and then I'm going to go make food now. But, yeah, progress made. Finished dinner, back to work, ink's done. And you can see when I was working on it, the problem with this technique, which I've mentioned before, is there's printing on the inside of the cover. So you have to be able to, like, ignore a lot of that background visual noise. And then there is the finished inks. I need to go in with a little bit of grayscale and then some color, and there's going to be an explosion in the back. But that's kind of the fun part. Oh, crap. It's 9:30. I finished the commission, the color and everything. Then, without showing it to you all, I packed it up and put it in this here envelope, sealed, that I cannot open. So, the good thing is I took a picture, so I will just throw up a picture. Rest assured, it is now done. As you can see, finished, and soon to be on its way. That leaves me with 1 commission to go and a corporate caricature. The corporate caricature needs to be done, I forget if I said by Monday or the end of next week. Soonish, and the other commission I have a lot more leeway on because it was a favor kind of commission. It needs to be done, but not immediately. So we're in good shape there. I need to get my pins straightened out so that I can get those printed, and I still need to do my 30 minutes today, of course. So I've done my 30 minutes, more than 30 minutes, as is my want, between 30 and 60, got to 30, kept going till I finished the panel. Here is that panel, coming at your face, more discussions in the panel. Discussioning. Go! have it. So yeah, that seems to be my thing I do lately, is one panel a day, which is not good, but I guess it is good that I go over 30. But as I said, this week I'm trying to catch up on other stuff, and then next week I'm going to hit it more solidly with more time. And having finished the Power Rangers commission, I'm in good shape there. So I'm going to call it a day. Today, the day I'm calling is day 79. Now, I've already used this, so I'm going to put this down. It was a prop from an earlier episode. What about this one? Drumstick. I may have used this. I don't know. I tend to look around and just see what's there. Okay, here's something. You'll see it in a minute, though, because this is the part where I set up the thing. So, today is day 79, and if today is day 79, then that means I'm Piccolo. Unexpected prop. Oh, by the way, we've got 21 days left. Guys, it was me the whole time.